many people were saying nothing happened. How can they just go and drop these shells in Jabo local government? Is there any terrorists there? No. But actually, you know, if you remember very well, they shot about 16 precision missiles from the ship, which landed directly into the target of Gudu and Tangasa. You know, and that was the main targets, and it landed there, and it was effective. I think the message is very clear. It's a warning. It's a warning shot, first of all, to the terrorists and to their supporters.
All right, so we'll turn our attention now to some updates about the Sokoto bombing with a terrorist group associated with ISIS, the Lakurawa group in Sokoto, by the U.S. and Nigeria coordinating that activity. So we do have Mr. Dennis Amachree, former Assistant Director with the State Security Service. He joins us virtually. Good morning, and thank you for joining us on the program. It's been ages almost, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good to see you again.
Too. Well,
okay, so some updates. I mean, some of those pictures, we clearly cannot show those pictures. They are gory pictures. But the police, they've released those images, which is part of what we were trying to find out. What kind of mop-up services will the security agencies provide to give some update concerning what actually transpired? You've seen those images as well, and you've also followed the scenario right from when that occurred. So what's your assessment of what you've seen so far?
Thank you very much. You see, after this bombing, there has been different kinds of narratives. You know, one coming from the United States. Of course, you know Trump. Trump's statements are political, basically. But it was the statement that he needed to get into Nigeria. And then, of course, the Nigerian government, in collaboration with the United States, have also handled this thing very, very carefully, because the main problem we have, forget about people trying to now change the narratives. It is not about Christians or Muslims. It's about Nigerians. And then, of course, a lot of people have died for 16 good years and counting. You know, so with the pictures, many people were saying nothing happened. How can they just go and drop these shells in Jabo local government? Is there any terrorists there? No. But actually, you know, if you remember very well, they shot about 16 precision missiles from the ship, which landed directly into the target of Gudu and Tangasa. You know, and that was the main targets, and it landed there, and it was effective, because that's...
From those images that were released by the police from part of Tangasa as well, and the figure they put to it was about 750 of those. So that is I mean, those who were asking questions as to why Sokoto, maybe they've got their answers now. But being a logistic and coordination hub, which many never saw coming, what impact do you think that probably this might be the first batch of information probably coming through? There might be a lot more, because 16 of that Tomahawk, that's quite a number.
Yes, 16, because they were precision missiles delivered by the MQ-9 Reaper Predator drone. And, you know, these drones are very expensive. And when they first say that, oh, you know, it was just a misplaced thing, I laugh, because when you look at it, you know how much of that drone will cost. The Reaper drone itself is about $30 to $33 million. And those missiles you are seeing there are about $2 million each. I don't think the United States will just wake up one morning and go and throw away their money, you know, in the desert somewhere. But that being said, I think the message is very clear. It's a warning. It's a warning shot, first of all, to the terrorists and to their supporters, you know, wherever they are. And I think the raids are going to continue, because we cannot continue like this, you know, making it political and then, of course, dodging the issues for all these years.
I mean, I'm looking at the updates on that particular bombing and seeing that the Nigerian military is actually following up on a lot of those Lakurawa terrorists who are fleeing right now.
Yeah.
So could you talk to us a little bit about that so people can understand what has happened?
Now, what has happened, first of all, I think let me explain what is going on. Who are the Lakurawas? The Lakurawas are an Islamic fundamentalist group that came from the Sahel. And of course, their ideology is basically 19th century, you know, Islamic jihadi, you know, ideology. And when they came into Nigeria, they are originally known as ISSP, and that is Islamic State Sahel Province. You know, we have Islamic State West Africa Province. These are Islamic State Sahel Province, and they are actually an affiliate to ISIS, you know. And then, of course, well, the United States was getting excited because one of their major national interests is to fight terrorism wherever it exists. And, of course, ISIS had some brushes with the United States, even in Afghanistan, Syria, and stuff like that. So for these ones, I think they decided to come in. They came into Nigeria, and then, of course, directly they settled at that Gudu, in Gudu town. Gudu is having a real serious history.
Yeah.
It's having a serious history. And then, of course, Tangasa local government.
In fact, now that you mentioned those places, Mr. Amachree, I want to be able to get the update because the traditional rulers in Tangaza, in Gudu, in Ilela, in Sokoto State, and then the traditional ruler also in Gwe West in Benue, they've been complaining that since that attack happened, there's an influx of herdsmen and well, at least people that they don't know. There's an influx of these people into their communities. What can the Nigerian military be doing right now to mop up this operation so that we don't have a situation where an attack has happened in Sokoto and then the terrorists are now running into other communities and, you know, may carry out those nefarious activities in these particular areas where the community leaders are afraid of the influx?
Yes, I think that is an area that the Defense Ministry have to be take very seriously, because after the bombing, there are supposed to be a battle damage assessment, and after that assessment, I think that's when you have the military or the police moving to do that particular assessment and then take over the area. The military will be on standby, of course, to mop up, any extra, people that are running out of that place. Sometimes we become very lackadaisical about these things, but I am happy that I saw policemen right there in Tangasa, and some military men. And, of course, they should be able to be on serious alert. Because as they move, one of the fallouts of this particular attack is that there might be a counter-attack, retaliatory attack, when they are running away. And that will involve other, innocent Nigerians. So they should have planned for this and make sure that...
That's why the next question, pardon me to jump in, because, the expectation is that since the minister told us on the program that Nigeria actually gave the states, the U.S., the intel for that to happen. So one would have assumed that, having gotten that intel and knowing that that strike was going to happen where it did, we thought that the security agencies would have been working together, and rather than the traditional rulers complaining that there's an influx, security agencies ought to have been there waiting for them. Because we know when this strike happens, welcome, as you're coming here, we're already here waiting for you. But why do we get the impression that that didn't happen? Are we missing something here?
We are not missing anything. I think the security agencies were very ready, and I think they've already moved into action. But one thing is this about this particular Nigerian situation, is that it's complicated. Some of those traditional rulers and clerics that are shouting now, later we'll come to find out that some of them are supporters. These are people that have been covering these people all along. Because the Laprawas, where they are, especially in Tangasa, they are like the local government. They run the local government there, where they collect taxes. If you're going to your farm, when you're coming, they collect things from you and stuff like that. So we know that it's complicated, and the security agencies are aware of this. The intel has been there. In fact, the choosing of that particular place to start this campaign, is a good one, and I give kudos to the security agencies. But like we said, there's a learning curve there, because sometimes we miss the point. Sometimes they don't think that, these people will actually be coming, and some of them will not die, and they will be out and running towards some other areas. But I think the operation is still on. It is not over. It's not a one-off thing. They are still plotting and mapping some areas, and things will soon happen again.
I mean, you were talking about, some traditional rulers who may be supporters of terrorists, and that's a very serious conversation. The idea is, and we hear these explanations from people from those parts of the country, but they say, look, it's not as though we support what you're doing. We're just trying to survive. If they're putting a tax on us and then they're just not going to attack my community, that's the only recourse I have. We're seeing that happening in places like Kaduna and whatnot. We're seeing communities actually saying, look, let's find a way so we don't die, But you see, now that we're seeing strikes, right? We're seeing military action from the United States, and then of course the DHQ ramping up their mopping up efforts. How do you help those communities right now? Because many of those communities, in fairness, are very afraid right now of the aftermath of this. Some of them had agreements with these terrorists and whatnot. So now that we've seen actual action, killing them for the crimes that they've committed, what happens to those communities that have been, doing all these negotiations with them over the years?
Yes, I think that you are very, very correct, Kayla. That area is one of the major areas that the defense headquarters have to take into consideration with either the Ministry of Orientation or Humanitarian Ministry or whatever. Because what we have is that there must be a long-term effectiveness to what has happened. And how do we achieve the long-term effectiveness? That will be the poverty that is not just bombing these guys, you see. We have to also think beyond the bombing, the root causes that has caused this problem. Now, that will also safeguard the citizens, the rural people, the communities there. And government should, in fact, start planning for poverty alleviation. All those people who are in the IDP camps, how do we now start bringing them back? And then, of course, employment and so forth. Because we cannot just bomb them and then we forget it, and some people will be in, IDP camp. And they have to be very careful, because when these people are mixing, they are mixing up with society. And you have to really, really be careful. I remember there was a time that there was some military action in Maiduguri, and some of them ran all the way to Lagos. In fact, the DSS arrested them in Lagos. So that is what happened when things like this happen.
Yeah, but in this kind of scenario, I don't know if they've done it and decided to keep it out of public knowledge, because if the residents are a bit confused as to what do we do, these persons are coming into our communities. We didn't hear any information from either the police, whichever security outfit, saying, listen, here's what you need to do if you suspect certain persons are coming. Volunteer information here and there. No such thing is going on. So these guys may as well just mix in, threaten the people, and before you know it, they assimilate, get into that community, and then who knows what next to expect. That's why one wonders, did we properly plan for the aftermath of this strike?